Good afternoon and welcome to the 10th seminar in the ALYN with ALYN series. I'm Paula Glazier and I have the privilege of being president of the American Friends of ALYN Hospital. The ALYN with ALYN series was created to share with you the ongoing accomplishments of our staff, what happens on a daily basis at the hospital. The entire staff works so hard to help each child reach his or her full potential by concentrating on their abilities. A sampling of the topics covered in the past seminars are feeding issues, gait, which is movement analysis in the mobility lab, and quality of life for the patients. You can view the whole ALYN with ALYN series, including today, from the alynus.org webpage or on YouTube at, one word, ALYN Hospital Friends. I would like to introduce, well, I'm not sure if they're on or not, but I want to give a shout out to Maureen Vieri, Director General of ALYN Hospital in Jerusalem, Adam Schwartz, Executive Director of American Friends, who's not here today because he's currently flying home from meetings at the hospital this past week, and Joanne Bly, American Friends immediate past president. Joanne will host the follow-up after the presentation, including questions and answers. Please put any questions you have in the chat. Today, our panel will be educating about and advocating for privacy and healthy sexuality for children and adolescents with physical challenges. Our presenters are Michal Yogev, a nurse in the independent living neighborhood at ALYN, Channa Frimer Shafran, a sexual education teacher and coordinator at SCHACHAR, ALYN's on-premises school, Hilla Boral, who is the director of PELE. The PELE department customizes solutions for the challenges faced by children with physical disabilities, and Karen Fuchs, a nurse in the incontinence clinic at the hospital, who has worked with Hilla on some solutions for the children. Please help me in welcoming Michal, Channa, Hilla, and Karen. Thank you all for being here with us today.
Okay, so hi, I'm Michal Yogev. I'm a nurse here in ALYN. I work with respirated kids and adults in independent living. I'll be talking for a few minutes on sexuality and children's rehabilitation and how do we do it here in ALYN. Over here, we see the definition of WHO of sexuality. The right to sexuality and rehabilitation of children refers to the children's rights to privacy and the preservation of their personal dignity during the rehabilitation process. This includes the right to make decisions related to matters of sexuality, as well as the right to receive appropriate information and education tailored to their age and level of understanding. We are also talking about giving children the opportunity to express their wishes and be part of the decision-making process in a manner that is suitable for their age and their worldview, while ensuring an appropriate level of protection and safeguarding their privacy. And I just want to read the last sentence of the WHO. It promotes the right to sexual health for all individuals, regardless of their age, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. And over here we see a research done by Brookdale Institute in 2021 that shows that there are over 300,000 kids in Israel with disabilities, which are 11% of all children in Israel. If we look at different researches, we could see that before the 70s, there was little to no research done on the sexuality of people with disabilities. Afterwards, they started to conduct more researches, but not proportionate to the researches conducted on the regular population, let alone researches about children with disabilities, which we could see much less. People with disabilities are not seen by the society as people with sexual needs. Not long ago in ALYN, we wrote a protocol regarding healthy sexuality. And this is from the protocol. And I think that the holistic approach is something very special here in ALYN. The way that the different caregivers give our patients and acknowledge their sexuality as part of the whole rehabilitation process. We believe in ALYN, we see children, we meet children with different cultural, religious needs, various ages, and many types of disabilities. Each require a specific consideration, and we see all aspects. Unfortunately, children with disabilities are in a higher risk of sexual abuse. And we need to talk to them and their family about the risks and how to keep out and inform. On the other hand, we really want to address the sexuality in a positive and in a healthy approach. And we need to think how to do it the right way, how to do it in a healthy way that we're also preventing sexual harm, but also talking about the positive aspects and the healthy. And I wanted to give you just a small taste on what we do here in ALYN to doing with sexuality. As I said not long ago, we wrote a protocol regarding healthy sexuality. We also have a group of staff members from different wards, sexuality group conducted by different workers in ALYN, which we get together and we write different work plans. We're also working on a staff training for also existing workers and also for new workers that come. And in June, we had an amazing seminar, which we had over 80 participants. And the seminar was dealing with sexuality in children's rehabilitation. We did it together with Ono College, and it was so successful that we're planning to do another one again in next June. And at the end, I just want to end with this beautiful saying by Tepper: sexuality is not dependent on the ability to walk, hear, see, or learn. Every human being is inherently sexual, and they have the ability to love and be loved both physically and emotionally. So that's the short introduction to which I finished. And next we'll be speaking Channa about.
Hi, my name is Channa, and I've been teaching social sexual education at our school since 2018. I want to give you a small taste of some of the ways that we educate our students who are different in age and present with a wide range of abilities, physical and cognitive and personality. I want to start by saying that we believe that sexual social education, starting at a young age, will help our students develop the ability to prevent sexual harm and also to have a healthier approach to their sexuality as they grow. Who are our students? We have Hebrew and Arabic speaking children. Many children are born with neuromuscular disorders. Some children were born premature. Some kids have experienced traumatic brain injuries. Most are quadriplegic and on respirators. These are examples of, you can see our classroom on the bottom. Most kids are fed by a PEG, and many, some talk and some use computers to communicate. Our kids have had unique childhood experiences, spending many hours, days, months, even years at hospitals. This presents many challenges. Even with loving, caring families, they often miss out on typical childhood experiences, crawling around, playing with friends, attending birthday parties, participating in group games, activities, so forth. Often they need to work on developing additional areas to their self-identity, apart from their physical condition. In addition, having numerous medical professionals and caretakers constantly treating them and taking care of their physical needs, this can cause confusion over their own body. Is it my body? Who may touch me? When? How? So we try to address both of these issues when we have our classes, and many more. So what do we actually do? We have a very large curriculum. Each year we look at it and we choose topics to focus on. We base it on the age, the gender, the academic level of our particular students in the different classes. We create groups. Sometimes we do it on an individual basis. Some of our topics are repeated every year, like self-identity, which obviously develops over time. And others are handpicked to accommodate specific needs of individuals or groups. So I put here, as you can see, different topics. These are just the major titles, and each one has many, many subtitles, obviously, and different things that we talk about. I'd like to show you now some examples of how we address self-identity with our younger students who have higher academic abilities. As I said before, this is just a little taste of what we do. This is an example of an ID booklet. As you can see, it's in Hebrew and in Arabic, because we have many classes that have both Hebrew speakers and Arabic speakers. It includes factual information, name, age, siblings, and also personal likes, personal dislikes. The work is done individually, but within a group setting. For instance, if we're addressing their eye color, we'll pass around a mirror and the kids will look in the mirror and say, oh, my eyes are brown. And someone else will say, oh, my eyes are blue, and discuss it. And then they fill in their space accordingly. We obviously have many aides who sit next to the children and help them, but it's very important that they choose their pen color and anything that they can choose themselves. That's we try to let them be as independent as possible. When discussing their favorites, whoever wants to share will share. For instance, if we're talking about what's your favorite song, we'll often play, whoever wants to will play their songs so that everyone can hear it and enjoy it and learn their songs, or they'll show a favorite toy or bring something from home, and so forth. Another example of a way to talk about self-identity, in Hebrew, this is called the Shemesh Assotsiatsios, which literally means association sun. Basically, they either put their name or their picture in the middle, and then you draw a circle with lines, so we made it look more like a sun, where they write their different things about themselves. For instance, this girl wrote that she likes to go to the pool, that she likes sports, that she has brown hair, that she likes dresses, she knows Spanish, all sorts of stuff. Sometimes we do this on an individual level. Sometimes we do it with the whole class together. Some of the kids have a lot of difficulty saying what they actually like or who they are. And then sometimes we'll ask their friends to help and then have them either agree or disagree with their friends' assessments. And it's both promotes self-identity and also seeing others. Here's an example of an interactive game. I didn't make it interactive for you, but it's to teach body parts, basic body parts for the younger kids. We have obviously a boy and a girl. I'm showing you the girl, where they have to match the word to the body part. And we do it together. So reading isn't important here. Many kids can't read, but I read it out loud and then they tell me where to put it. If I can give them the mouse or put it on their own screens and have them be more independent, obviously we try to do that. But even if not, we'll play around with it. And sometimes we'll purposely, I'll put the line in the wrong spot and they'll yell, no, it's not there. And they really love having that interactive game. Well, to teach more intimate body parts, we use these dolls. These are called Boral dolls. It's the name of the company. And as you can see, the left doll, here, look at the boy since the girls are crooked, sorry. The boy on the left is wearing clothes designed and created by the children. The boy on the left is wearing the original clothes. They very much enjoyed it. It was part of a class is to have them also express themselves. Here is how we, again, put self-identity into a class about body parts. As you can see, there are 2 boys and 2 girls. I don't know how much you can tell, but this boy on the left is younger, and he has private body parts of a young boy, where the older boy or girl have the body parts of an adolescent. They have all the different hair and etc., larger body parts, so that they can learn about the intimate and private body parts. These dolls have proven to be very popular and helpful for a variety of ages and abilities. Another important topic that we discuss in class is public versus private. We use pictures, we have conversations, and also talk about various locations at our school. We discuss which places are public, private, or which can be both, depending on the situation. As you can see here, for instance, sometimes you'll see a bedroom, and then we'll say, is a bedroom private or public? And then they'll think about it, and they'll say, oh, it's private. And someone else will say, no, it's public. I invite my friends there. And it leads to a lot of discussions. We talk about screens and dividers. We use them a lot, as you can see the picture in the middle. At ALYN, we don't always have a private room for everything we need. We try our best, but sometimes we need to use these dividers. And PELE with Hilla has actually made us better dividers than the one in my picture, where you could see underneath, and they solved that problem for us and made us specialized dividers to ensure privacy. And we discuss how the divider and the screen turn a public area into more private. I want to share with you a story. After one of these lessons, one of my students raised her hand. She said, listen, I go to the pool and I take a shower. And I see sometimes the person next to me with their mother helping them undressing, and it's see-through, the curtains are see-through. And I don't usually go to the pool. I wasn't aware of this. We discussed it, and other kids agreed with her. And so we went together to the woman in charge of the pool, and she told her. The woman looked and hadn't really noticed because it wasn't obvious. If you're not looking for, if you don't undress there often. And she agreed with her. And eventually they changed the curtains. That was a real accomplishment for the student. While we learn about public versus private, we also talk about body parts and clothing, which also leads to cultural debates between the children and even sometimes the staff, who we encourage to engage together with the children in the conversation. As I said, we have religious and secular Jews, we have Muslims, we have sometimes Christians or other religions. Within all that, we have different family customs. So for instance, if we're talking about hair, for some, it will be very obvious that hair is a public, that you show your hair in public. Well, for others, it will be very obvious that you do not show your hair in public. And this allows the children to connect with their culture and speak about it and feel good about themselves, and also learn about other cultures that they see every day in a multicultural class. Adolescents. When it comes to teaching adolescents, we have many, many topics to cover. I'm not going to go through all of them. We have many different ways that we teach, and we choose it according to what's appropriate for the students that are approaching that age. We divide groups by gender to discuss more private issues. Sometimes we'll teach a student privately. We will sometimes also often involve the parents. On the screen, you can see that we discuss physical and emotional changes. We teach about menstruation, about relationships. And on the right, as you could see, we have educational videos that we'll use. We use the dolls I showed you before, pictures, diagrams, videos, booklets, worksheets, accessories, just about anything that we feel will help them understand their bodies better. It's particularly challenging when, because of their disabilities, many of our students cannot see their own body parts, except unless they do it at home in private with a mirror. And even then, it's very difficult, and that obviously doesn't always happen. So it really presents an extra challenge for us. If you look at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see an actual booklet of a social story that we wrote last year with one of our 13-year-old students. It was a process that took a few months and included input with her mother. First, we sat with her mother first we met her mother, and discussed what her parents, what's important to them that we teach her. And then we sat with her and we told her about the idea, and she was very excited. And she designed the cover, and then we went through the different subjects, and she designed all the different pages. I can't show you the real book because it's private, unfortunately, but the result was a very personalized story about reaching adolescence and all the changes that she's going through. And she took it home and was very, very proud of herself. Well, we have very important lessons and discussions about our students' rights and how to assert them. In order for this to be effective, we also have staff sessions to get them involved and to have them also believe in it so that they can help empower the students, and not just empower them, but have them assert for themselves. Because what happens is many times the adults are very good at making sure the kids have privacy and things like that. But we want the students to, I say we want them to drive us crazy. Channa, you forgot to close the door. Channa, you forgot to do this. I want them to know to say it for themselves. A few years ago, I was talking to one of the parents, and we discussed all the stuff we learned in class. And she said to me, she said, listen, I'm so happy that you're teaching all this stuff, but I have a live-in aide who doesn't speak English, doesn't speak Hebrew, and my English isn't so good, and she's been with us forever. And she's used to changing our daughter's clothes and diapers in the living room. But now our daughter is a teenager and it's not appropriate anymore. And I don't feel comfortable telling her, I don't know what to do. So I said, how about if I just write down some guidelines in English, since I know English, and you can show her this is what we learned in class, and maybe she'll read it and she'll get the point. What turned out was it turned into a whole policy, basically, that we ended up writing it with the students about the students. It's written in the first person. I'll show it to you in a minute in large. You obviously can't read anything here, but it's actually written in the first person, and it makes it a personal request from our students. It's been translated into English and Arabic, and now it hangs in one of the hospital wards. And that's a picture of where it hangs. This is the English part. You don't have to read it all, but whoever's interested can look. I'll just give you a few examples. Always make sure to speak to me directly. Please inform me about what is about to happen next and ask permission before performing personal tasks. Please ask for permission before opening my bag or touching my personal belongings. Some of these things seem very obvious, but when you work with someone every day, sometimes you forget to ask. I once had a student who couldn't reach her nose and she needed to blow her nose very often. And I went up to her and I said, how about if every time I see that you need a tissue, I'll come and wipe your nose for you. Is that okay? And I thought she'd say, yeah, because it was like every 3 minutes. And she said, no, I want you to ask me each time. And that was a very important lesson to me because I realized how important it is to, when possible, to ask for permission. Please do not talk about me behind my back or mention my private information in public. Sometimes in hospital settings, in the hallways, we have to be, or if we have other students, we have to be very careful about that. When talking to me or treating me, please remember that my needs are the same as any other child, teenager, etc. Photographs, obviously. So this is something that we can also change the wording if we need to. And one of our goals is to see how we can accommodate other wards or younger children and make it more relevant. But this, the idea behind this was that if it's in the first person, hopefully it will engage people to care and to, I'm not necessarily talking about workers or people who are used to it, but even people who don't necessarily come across our children and may not realize that some of these things are very, very important. I just want to add, before I end, that even with all of the classes that we teach, it's very hard for some of our students to fully internalize their rights, let alone assert themselves. And I'll just end with a story about one of my students who was in all my classes and participated and understood, a very smart kid, good vocabulary, good, he was able to talk and participate. And one day he was in the gym and a nurse walked up to him and wanted to check something on his stomach. And she explained to him the process very well. And he didn't say anything. And I was waiting for him to ask for a screen and he didn't. And I came up, I said, maybe he didn't care. Some kids don't see their stomach as a private area. I said, would you like a screen? And he answered me so quickly. He said, yes, yes, yes. That was obvious that he did want it. And I asked myself, how come this kid who has been in all my classes and knew that he's allowed to and felt comfortable with this nurse, why didn't he ask for the screen? And I don't quite have an answer to the question, but I think it's just extremely hard to assert oneself. I think everyone here can ask themselves if they always are able to assert themselves when they're at a doctor's office or feeling uncomfortable in the emergency room or whatever. And for our kids who have grown up with doctors and nurses and caretakers and parents helping them and touching their bodies from a very young age, it's even extra hard for them. So our work is cut out for us, and we really are, it's our hope to help them reach these goals and more, not only in order to protect themselves, but also in order to have a fulfilling, healthy view of themselves in a social sexual context and more. Thank you very much.
So good evening. Now Karen and me will present to you the collaboration, the cooperation between PELE. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. And in one of the departments of ALYN, or one of the clinics. Let's start. I want to start with this thing that happened one day, that Tamara, the young girl here, she met the Olympic athletic Morana Tias, and she said, every time you go to the bathroom, you need somebody to come in with you. What about the privacy? So that made us think a lot of, you know, those things that we'd never talk about and are very, very important to the independency and to the privacy of any child in the world. Let me introduce you, Karen. Karen, introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Karen, and I am in charge of the Continence Clinic. I see about 400 patients with spinal injury a year, some congenital and some required, like a tumor or car accident. Most of them have a neurogenic bladder and bowel problem, which require them to perform intermediate catheterization and cleaning animals. I teach and help families and children as they learn how to do catheterization, starting with parents and around the age of 7 or 8 on their own. During the process, I come across a lot of problems that lead me to PELE to search for a solution. That's how the collaboration has born.
Okay. And my name is Hilla Boral, and I'm the director, manager of PELE. PELE is a part of the 5 years innovation center that we opened in ALYN. We do tailor-made solutions. Each child or each parent or a therapist will come to us and ask us to develop a solution to something that is not existing, or maybe it exists, but it doesn't suit the child, or maybe it's too expensive. And we, when I say we, is the 20 engineers, volunteers that work with us, and designers. We develop a solution. We listen to the child, we listen to the parents, we listen to the therapist, and we try to develop the right device that will give the child more independence to function in his everyday life. So we want to present to you the collaboration between us. We'll show you the problem and the solution.
So the first problem that I brought up is that is very difficult to explain the anatomic and the physiologic to the patient. It's difficult to explain that what is the kidney and the bladder to the patient and the little children.
Okay, so our designer worked with Karen on a story that she tells the children. Just imagine a 6-year-old child, and he needs to catheterize himself, and he doesn't know even where it is and how to do it, and he needs to understand what's happening in his body. So it's a booklet with the layers that can help Karen explain to the children in their level.
Yeah, we try to speak at the level that children understand, and using images that are familiar from the daily life, everyday life, such as the kidney being cloud, and the ureters are rivers, and the bladder is a pool that be emptied of water.
Okay, and also you give them a way to paint or to play. I guess whenever the child is playing with this, or imagine it to himself, and it reduces stress, and it makes him more involved, I think, in understanding what's happening.
Yes, this is a black beans that need to through the root, all the roots.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next problem.
The next problem. Okay, it's how to explain the child how to catheterize himself. How do you overcome fear or concern?
So it's almost the same idea that we give the child a way to practice on that doll, and then to understand exactly what's going to happen to him, and try it on the doll itself.
In addition, we are constantly thinking how to move forward. We are now thinking about using VR or AR to simulate self-catheterization.
Okay, another problem.
The next problem is how to catheterize without a suitable visual field. How can girls see where to catheter, where the catheter goes. The mirror can help, but in the image is inverted, so sometimes it's very confused.
Yeah, the usual solution will be a mirror, but it makes a mirror sight, and it's very confusing for the child. So we found that the device that is connected to the cellular, and it's the right way, and it really makes a difference for the children to understand what to do and where it is.
The next problem is it's how to perform catheterized wearing long approach appliance.
Appliance. Yeah.
Yes.
You have
So
to
in order to catheterize, the appliance must be removed. It's very time consuming and difficult to do alone. So
Well,
the solution.
just imagine how many things he needs to do when he goes to the bathroom for a minute. For us, it's a minute, but for that child, it's really hard. So what we're doing is our seamstress, we have a volunteer in ALYN, and our designer found a few ways to adjust the, look at that, in a minute it will start, to adjust the underwear and the pants to be on top of the appliance, and then it's always there, and it can be much less confusing for the child to deal with it. So we give the parents the instructions, and they go to the seamstress in the community, and she changes all the pants and all the underwears of the child. Then it's easier for him to function independently.
Okay. The next problem is how to use. Is how do you keep legs spread while using your hand to catheterize? We have a spastic patient who need to, and it's very difficult to spread the legs and to do catheterize.
Well, they have only two hands, and they have also to separate the legs and then to adjust the catheter to the place. What we're doing is like a spreader, and each child gets his own spreader, of course, with the colors that he wants, and also, of course, the white that he needs. And it can be folded into a small bag, and he can take it with him everywhere. And then his hands are free for the catheterizing.
Yes, it's dynamic and
there are two more to go.
Okay. Now the next problem is how do you perform a cleansing enema in a correct and comfortable way? Sometimes the hand is short and they didn't know how to grasp the enema and bring it to the right place.
Yeah, so what we do, it's also tailor-made. I mean, for each child, it will be different. It's a handle that stabilizes the catheter, and it can be long or not so long, whatever is needed. And also we take into account the way that the child holds it. Not everybody has the grasp that a normal child has. So that's also a kind of a solution that we do.
Okay. The next problem, today there are friendly small catheters that can be placed over the toilet. But sometimes there are patients who find it difficult to go to the toilet. So I came to PELE to find a solution to extend the catheter.
Yeah, just imagine that he cannot reach the toilet itself. He's standing like in the doorway, and still he needs to catheterize himself. So we found, after a long time of trials and errors, we found a narrow pipe from the world of air conditioning, and then you can cut it to the length that you need, and it's really, really easy to combine it to the catheter, and it does the work.
Yeah.
And that's what we do in PELE, and that's just a demonstration of our work with Keren that is really, really very satisfying.
Well, thank you very much. This was terrific, Michal, Hannah, Keren, Hilla. You brought up solutions for problems that I didn't even realize existed. I mean, I just had no idea. To me, a lot of these children, when I see them, I assume they're in diapers. So and someone else is changing them. I didn't realize how much you're working to make them be independent, to be able to not need other people to change them and help them. And that's just amazing to me, really, really. And obviously the community and the children must be so pleased. Everyone, please, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. I have questions, so I'll start while we're waiting. I know sometimes it takes people a while to type or to think of the questions. Going back to sexuality, I thought SCHACHAR was younger age children. And you're talking about people, girls getting their periods, menstruation, and all that. So what are you dealing from very young to, 15, 16? I mean, through adolescence? I don't know. Yeah, I think,
So,
yeah.
SCHACHAR has it's called the Ma'on, where it's the babies up to age 3. And the school, which until last year, was age 3 to 21. Officially, so I had lots of groups of teenagers. It's true that it's now turning into this year our oldest kids are maybe 9 or 10, and from next year they're going to be even younger. But many years we had older students, and also I worked with two teenage girls who live in the Marach Dio, independent living.
Right.
And so we had both when they were around 12, we had I taught them for about a year and a half. And then now last year again, now that they're 15, they needed a more specific for their age, more classes. So
Right.
yeah, we do have.
Now you say that you involve the parents and you're conscious of the fact that you have all different cultures and backgrounds. What if the parents don't want their children to know about menstruation, figure they'll teach it at home, or they don't want it? We have the problem here in the US. They don't want to teach sex education in the schools. So I assume you have the same problem there. How do you handle that?
So the truth of the matter is that our group classes, we usually send like a letter in the beginning of the year explaining, but menstruation and stuff is usually done in more individually. We haven't always had, a few years ago, we had mostly boys, or we had older girls who didn't menstruate for various reasons. And then when we did, I can remember in SCHACHAR school, 2 specific girls, one who she just needed like a checklist before moving on to a different school, and the other, we really sat with the mother and planned the whole curriculum. And the 2 girls who live here, that's different.
Right. So you do group classes, but you also do individual classes.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Now, when Keren, you were speaking about getting children to speak up for themselves. I know, I agree with you. Adults go to the doctor and they don't even speak up for themselves. Whatever the doctor says, they do. And if you've been operated on or in the hospital, people come around all times of the day and night and just undress you and take a look. So I agree that's a hard thing to get people to realize that they do have control over their own bodies. You were mentioning that sometimes children don't say close the door. Do you do that? Do you on purpose not close the door, hoping to teach the child that it's okay to say close the door or things like that? Do you play those kind of instructive games?
We do a lot of games, a lot of acting, we'll come to a child and but they know it's a game. Do we do it on purpose? We might wait a little longer to close the door, but we'll obviously always close the door. Or
Right.
we'll remind them first to ask to close the door. But in terms of acting out scenarios, we definitely will do it with a lot of humor. We put a lot of humor in the classes, and we'll go children. Sometimes people hug them without asking permission because they're cute. So we'll go and we'll be like, "Oh, you're so cute," and have them go, "Stop, please don't touch me," and things like that. So definitely.
Okay. And this will be to Hilla or Karen. No, Hilla, because it's PELE. All those devices that you were mentioning, the leg spreader and the ability to self-catheterize, are those available outside of ALYN? Are you selling them or
Yeah, of
marketing
course.
them? Okay.
Yes, of course. We have a catalog and we have a site that we
Oh.
try to put all the 800 solutions that we already made, that people can, first of all, they can, it's an open source, so they can get the code and all the details how to do it by themselves at home. But if they buy it from us, we take the measures and we can do it and we can send it all over the world, and we do that.
Okay. And there's a question here in the chat. Without any specifics, has anyone ever come to you with a problem they've experienced and needed additional help?
Is it, I didn't get it. Is it to
Well,
me?
has anybody, I guess it would be PELE. Oops, sorry. Do people, anyone ever come to you with a problem? Do people come to you ahead of time and say, I have a problem with my child because of X, Y, and Z, and they need additional help? If, do people come outside of the hospital?
Yeah, okay.
PELE, and say, can you make something for my child? I know within the hospital you do that.
We're always, for 30 years, for I think at least, we have it inside the hospital as it is, but the opening of the Innovation Center was especially to offer it to the children of the world, really, or especially to the children of Israel. That's the purpose of opening PELE to children outside of ALYN. And we get requests from all over the country, from therapists and children and parents that hear about us, and then we meet them, no charge for the first meeting, and then the parents have to pay only for the materials, because volunteers are doing it, so it's really cheap,
right?
And they can really get exactly what they need. We always involve the parents or those who come to us in the process. We don't do that by ourselves because it's never the right thing. They have to be with us, and then it's much more right.
Okay, and I see I phrased that question incorrectly. The person who asked, Pamela, who asked, she said she meant this for the teachers. Has a patient had a problem with a family member or someone else, and they have needed additional help learning how to respond? I assume, that means maybe inappropriate touching or something like that from someone in their household or in their neighborhood, and maybe they've come to the teacher. Have you ever gotten involved in things like that?
No, I have not, and I want to hope that it's because they haven't experienced, but it's probably also we have pretty young children, and even the older ones are pretty, I would say, innocent, which is why we need this program so much, so that they can come. I hope that the reason, again, is that they haven't experienced anything, but no, I've never had a student not yet, and I hope they won't experience anything, but if they do, I hope they feel comfortable speaking up.
Okay, any other classes, questions? I'm waiting for some here. Your June seminar from last June, do you have anything that you publicize after that to the general community, or was that just internally for you to host things and get questions and your community?
No, so at the end of, unfortunately, our conclusion for next time is that we need to film it.
Okay.
That was one of our conclusions, but our last session was a discussion of Morit, our CEO, together with Rona, which was a patient 20 years ago, when she went through a very long rehabilitation. I think she was here like 2 or 3 years in ALYN. And they remained friends since then. And they had a discussion between both, Rona also talks about sexuality, and it's something that she works and deals with. So they had a discussion between both of them, and it was filmed, and I know that I don't know where it is, but it was. So that is something that we could try to send you, friends of ALYN, if you want to watch the discussion.
Sure, I think that would be very nice. If you, if you get permission to send it over, if you think it was worthwhile, that sounds great.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've always noticed, it's when we've been there for the ride, or we go visit the hospital, or Morit speaks to us, it's the people who are living their lives now outside the hospital, who have so much to thank the hospital for, that they're leading normal lives because of all the people like you at the hospital. I know I've been there on several of the rides, the bike rides that they do, October, November. And I remember, I think it was even Brenda, and she was on this call at some point. She said she was driving to meet the bikers, the riders somewhere, and a woman saw her in the gas station or one of the stores and recognized her and said, "My son is doing so well because of the treatments at your hospital." So, it's nice when we hear those stories, and it's nice when our donors hear those stories as well. So that could be helpful in sending out to our donors to say, look what your money does. These are people who years later are thanking the hospital for all that all of you on this call have done for them. It's very heartwarming to hear these stories. I can't imagine what it does to you who've been part of the history of these people. So it's kind of amazing. So again, I'd like to thank you, Michal, Channa, Karen, Hilla, for this marvelous presentation. As Paula mentioned at the beginning, it'll be on our YouTube. ALYN Hospital Friends, I think, is the site tomorrow, where all the other 9 have been, and people do watch this on YouTube. Davida at some point can even put out stats on that. So we do know that people do look at these, and we do send it out to our community so they know they can see where their dollars are going. And again, thank you for all you do, and thank you for taking the time today. And thanks for everyone on this call. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you again in 6 weeks on the next Align with ALYN. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.